Next on AM 560, The Answer.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. As Mike Scott has been reporting this morning, Trump securing the release of school teacher Mark Fogel yesterday from a Russian prison. Fogel calling Trump a hero upon his return. His sister, Mark Fogel's sister, telling CNN the story of a promise Trump made that he has now kept.
Things started to turn around last fall when he was designated as wrongfully detained, and we knew that the State Department was taking more of an interest in. But prior to that, my mother went to the Trump rally and saw President Trump shortly before he was shot.
In Butler,
so
right?
It was
in Butler,
crazy,
where she's from.
It was just a crazy turn of events. And he told her then that if he was elected, he was going to get him out, and the man was true to his word.
70% of the American people believe Trump is keeping his campaign promises, and 70% of the American people are correct. Fogel having served 4 years of a 14-year sentence in a Russian prison for possession of marijuana and hash oil.
It was medically prescribed, I should say.
Speaking of hostages and their release, we are under a Saturday noon deadline. Not we, but Hamas is under a Saturday noon deadline to stop with their contrived excuse-making and make with the release of all American and Israeli hostages, or else Trump basically pulling a high noon, Gary Cooper on Hamas, saying this.
Look, who knows? Are they alive? Are they not alive? But I saw the condition. When I saw the condition of the last ones that came out, and the women too, everybody. The one woman had her hand blown off because she was trying to stop a bullet being fired at her, okay? What kind of a situation is that? You saw her. I just think it's time to either you release everybody. They're not going to be alive right now based on what I saw over the last 2 days. They're not going to be alive for long. Saturday at 12 o'clock, and after that, it's going to be a different ballgame.
Mr. President, when you say all hell is going to break loose, are you speaking about retaliation from
You'll
Israel?
find out,
Okay.
and they'll find out, too. Hamas will find out what I mean.
Mr. President,
They're going to find out what I mean. These are sick people, and they'll find out what I mean Saturday at 12 o'clock.
but no involvement.
Frack around, find out. Hamas on notice. He also did, Trump, staying in the region, hosted King Abdullah of Jordan, and to discuss basically Gazan refugees and what Jordan might be willing to do to assist in that effort per Trump's vision for rebuilding Gaza and resettling Gazans. And King Abdullah did offer this gesture, which is significant. I mean, nowhere near the scale of what we're talking about, but it is a humanitarian olive branch nonetheless.
One of the things that we can do right away is take 2,000 children that are either cancer children or in very ill state to Jordan as quickly as possible, and then wait for, I think, the Egyptians to present their plan on how we can work with the president to work on the Gaza challenges.
So you're
I want to tell you, excuse me, wait, just please. I didn't know that, what you just said, 2,000 children with cancer or other problems. And that's really a beautiful gesture. That's really good, and we appreciate it.
It is a beautiful gesture, but getting beyond gestures to something that is on scale with the refugee situation is a whole nother matter that we now discuss with Peter Berkowitz, senior fellow at the Hoover Institution, former director of policy planning at the State Department. And you can get his writings often at realclearpolitics.com, as well as at his own website, peterberkowitz.com. Peter, thanks for joining us again. Appreciate it.
It's good to be with you. Thank you.
So King Abdullah is constructively engaging, and that is a nice thing that he has agreed to do. But what is the possibility that Jordan and the United States can include Egypt in doing more nice things for more like 2 million Gazans?
The chance of doing something nice for 2 million Gazans is between negligible and zero. Another gesture to take in 2,000 sick Palestinians would be welcome, but that doesn't begin to address the problem. And I have to add, I was delighted to hear the president give a deadline to Hamas to release all the hostages. From my point of view, that deadline ought to be delivered on October 8th, 2023 by President Biden. It's been a disgrace that we haven't demanded the release of all the hostages from the moment they were seized by the jihadists.
So do you think Hamas is going to comply and release all the hostages by Saturday at noon?
I would welcome it, but I think it extremely unlikely.
Well, Bibi and Trump definitely have something in mind, assuming that deadline will pass without compliance, I suspect.
Yes, Netanyahu has already announced that if the deadline's not met, this time for all the hostages, not just the 17 more that were supposed to be released in the first round, Netanyahu has said that he will return to intense fighting. He's already sent out a mobilization order to reserves, and I expect that at least the United States under Trump has already done this, ensure that Israel has the weapons it needs to accomplish its military goals in Gaza.
Yeah, I mean, and from a PR perspective, you can't say that the United States and Israel didn't try. I mean, it was a very difficult deal in terms of the hostage exchange with the number of Hamas-affiliated murderers that were released in exchange for those Israelis and dual citizens that were released. But the sort of the Western world that sympathizes routinely with Islamist extremists and terrorists, look, they had a chance. Hamas is dithering around and holding up their end, so all bets are off, and let's get to the business of leveling them, because that's what has to be done.
Yes, the whole thing is outrageous, of course. The majority of Israelis are for the deal. They understand it's a bargain with the devil. All you have to do is compare the emaciated Israelis that have been released from 15 months of torture in Hamas's hands, and look at the photographs of the Hamas killers. Dozens of Hamas killers for each Israeli released. They relieve their jail cells plump, well-fed, looking hale and hearty, because Israel honors the laws of war, whereas Hamas completely repudiates them.
There's 2.1 million people living in Gaza. Where are they all right now?
They're located in the southern half of Gaza, many living in tent encampments. It's worth keeping this comparison in mind. Europe has taken in roughly 6 million Ukrainian refugees from the war, the Russia-Ukraine war. The entirety of the Middle East has taken in approximately 100,000 Palestinians. So most of the 2.1 million remain crammed in Gaza amid the rubble.
And if Trump's idea of rebuilding Gaza and resettling Gazans in land that is ceded by Egypt and or Jordan does not come to fruition, then what is the likely outcome? Where will Gazans go? How will they be governed? Are we going to be on this hamster wheel one more time?
Unfortunately, we still at least do not have released to the public a good idea of a plan for what they call in Israel Hayom Shachrei, the day after. But the Arab world has been unified in insisting that the Gazans are not leaving Gaza. We know that there are something like 45,000 tons of rubble in Gaza. It will take years to clear that. The Arab world and the Gazans are condemning the Gazans to live in this misery for years to come. And if I may add just one quick suggestion, there's not a good reason that you cannot extend the Gaza border 10 miles into the Sinai Desert, which is at best sparsely inhabited, and give the Gazans an opportunity to build out there. This would not make Gazans citizens of Egypt, but just extend the borders of Gaza and create opportunities to build and reconstruct their lives.
Well, but how? Where does the underwriting for that reconstruction, either cleaning up Gaza or extending the border, as you say, who is stepping up to say we will underwrite that reconstruction, that cleanup and or reconstruction?
So far, no one has forcefully stood up, but here I think it would be the task of the Trump administration diplomacy to work with the Saudis and the Emiratis, who have easy access to the tens of billions of dollars it would be necessary both for the reconstruction and to provide financial inducements to Egypt to make available, let's say, an extension of 10 miles into the Sinai.
I want to get your reaction to a piece that was penned by former NATO Secretary Anders Fogh Rasmussen. He accuses America of going rogue, and that if America is going to threaten its allies, tariffs, Europe will have to step up and defend itself. The world needs a policeman, he writes, and since World War II, the U.S. has filled that role. But what if the policeman no longer exercises his authority over geopolitical gangsters or becomes abusive toward the world's most steadfast rule followers? I never imagined I would hear a U.S. president declare his intentions to expand our territory, as Trump did in his inaugural address, and she and Putin are watching, and so on and so forth. So it's tariffs, it's the talk of Greenland, it's the talk of Canada being a 51st state, and so forth. Europe is going to have to step up and defend itself. I think a lot of us have been calling for Europe to stand up and carry its own weight for some time, actually.
For sure. Excuse me. When I was in the State Department, we urged Europe to share its responsibilities with the United States. In fact, you'll remember that Trump's tough talk in the first administration actually impelled the Europeans to begin to step up and meet their obligations to devote 2% of their GDP to their NATO dues, which amounts to defending themselves. So I would have thought that by this time, our friends in Europe, everybody around the world, would know how to interpret President Trump's remarks. His opening remarks are an opening bid. Sometimes they're overstated, let us say. They're an opportunity to actually now to continue the conversation. I think the Europeans should understand the president's remarks in that spirit.
One more in terms of these international agencies that demand that U.S. carry all the weight and then bitch when we don't, or we ask them to participate, uphold their responsibilities, as you say. Eugene Konorovich, George Mason University law professor, in the interests of rooting out the deep state nationally, we should do the same thing internationally, and that means the U.S. pulling out of the UN. What do you think about that?
Pulling out altogether may be an extreme step, but the underlying thought strikes me as correct. That is, we need a proper accounting. The United States remains, I believe, the biggest donor to the United Nations. The United Nations has become a wildly overgrown bureaucracy. It often serves the bureaucracy's interests and often serves the interests of either progressive diplomats or authoritarian states. I think we're long overdue for a serious accounting of how our money in the UN is used.
Peter Berkowitz, senior fellow at the Hoover Institution and former director of policy planning at the State Department. His writings can be found at peterberkowitz.com. Peter, thanks as always.
Thank you.
Thank you. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
Connect with Dan and Amy using the AM 560 mobile app. Download it today at 560theanswer.com/mobile.
Hey, Carl Jackson here for Dennis Prager. While Dennis Prager is recuperating, we know you miss your daily dose of Dennis. That's why Pragertopia is giving you a special gift. Right now, Pragertopia members can hear the best 2 hours of Dennis'